I stood at the edge of the school track, watching other families arrive with cameras and folding chairs, and I thought, they're really not coming. The sun pressed hot against my shoulders. I could smell cut grass and rubber from the track surface. Around me, parents clustered in groups, pointing at their children warming up. Mothers adjusted their daughters' hair ribbons. Fathers tested camera angles. Everyone had someone. I checked my phone again. Nothing. "Halena," Coach Rivera called. "You're up in 10 for the 100-meter. I nodded, sliding the phone into my bag. My hands were shaking, but not from nerves about the race. I'd trained for months. I was fast, faster than I'd ever been. Today was the district championship, the biggest sports day our school had hosted in years. Scouts were coming, real scouts from actual universities. I told them 3 weeks ago, reminded them 2 weeks ago, sent a calendar invite 10 days ago, texted them yesterday. Mum had replied, "We'll try, sweetheart." Dad hadn't replied at all. This morning at breakfast, I'd asked one more time, "You're still coming, right? It starts at 2. Mum was rushing around the kitchen, packing Violet's dance bag. "Violet has her rehearsal with the national troupe today. The director is coming to watch. This could change everything for her." "My races are at 2:30 and 4, I said quietly. "The rehearsal is at 5. You could come to mine first." "Halena, be reasonable." She didn't even look up. "Violet's been working toward this for years. The director only comes twice a year. We can't risk being late." Violet appeared in the doorway, already in her leotard, her hair pulled into that perfect bun Mum always did for her. She looked at me with something like pity. "Sorry, Halena. Maybe they can come to your next one?" "This is districts," I said. "This is the next one." Dad came down then, car keys in hand. "Ready, Vi?" "Dad, my race is—" "We'll hear all about it tonight," he said, kissing the top of my head without stopping. "Make us proud, athlete." And they left. All 3 of them. They left me standing in the kitchen with my medal from last month's qualifier still on the counter where I'd placed it, hoping someone would notice. No one had. Now I stood on the track and the stands were full of everyone's family except mine. I scanned the crowd one more time, looking for any sign of them. Maybe they'd changed their minds. Maybe they'd realised Violet's rehearsal could wait. Maybe, just this once, I would matter enough, but there was nothing. Just empty seats in Section C, row 5, the exact seats I told them to look for. "Runners, take your marks." I walked to my lane. Lane 4. My lucky number, though luck had nothing to do with how hard I'd worked for this. The girl next to me in lane 3 was bouncing on her toes. Her whole family was in the front row, holding a banner with her name on it. Her little brother was ringing a cowbell. "Good luck," she said to me. "You too." The gun went off. The 100-meter was a blur. I ran like something was chasing me, like if I ran fast enough I could outrun the hollow feeling in my chest. My legs pumped. My arms swung. The world narrowed to the white line ahead and the burn in my lungs. I crossed the line first. The crowd roared. Coach Rivera was screaming. The girl in second place was bent over, crying because I'd broken the school record by 0.3 of a second. I looked at the stands. Section C, row 5, still empty. I bent over, hands on my knees, trying to breathe. The air felt thick, like I was drowning in it. "Halena Chen!" The announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. "New school record in the 100-meter dash, 14.23 seconds. People I didn't know were cheering. Someone's dad clapped me on the shoulder and told me I was going places. A woman I'd never met took my photo and said her daughter wanted to be just like me. I smiled and thanked them and felt completely alone. The 2 hours between races were the longest of my life. I sat in the athlete tent, sipping water, watching other runners celebrate with their families. Parents bought them snacks from the concession stand. Siblings took selfies with them. Grandparents dabbed at proud tears. I checked my phone every 5 minutes. At 3:15, a text came through. My heart jumped. It was from Violet. "How did your race go?" I stared at the screen. She was asking. She remembered. That was something, wasn't it? 1 broke the school record, I typed back. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "That's amazing! Mum and Dad are going to be so proud." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I put my phone away and started warming up for the 400 metre. The 4 o'clock race was my specialty. The race I'd been training for all year. The race that had consumed every morning, every afternoon, every weekend for the past 12 months. I'd visualised this moment 1,000 times. The final turn, the last 50 metres, the burn in my legs as I pushed through to the finish. "Runners, to your marks." I settled into the blocks. Lane 6 this time. The outside lane, which meant I couldn't see anyone else during the race. I'd be running blind, trusting my pace, trusting my training. Maybe that was better. Maybe not seeing the other runners meant I wouldn't see the empty stands either. The gun fired. I exploded out of the blocks. The first 100 metres were about control, fast but not desperate, strong but not spent. I hit the 200 metre mark exactly where I needed to be, feeling the rhythm in my stride. The third 100 was where it got hard. This was where races were lost, where your body started screaming at you to slow down, to give up, to stop punishing yourself. I pushed harder. The final 100 was pure will. My legs were burning, my lungs were fire, but I could see the finish line and I knew I was going to win. I crossed the line and the noise hit me like a wave. Another record. 56.8 seconds in the 400 metre. A full second faster than the previous school record. Coach Rivera grabbed me, shaking my shoulders. "Do you understand what you just did? Do you understand how fast that is?" I understood. I'd been chasing that time for a year. But when I looked up at Section C, Row 5, understanding didn't matter. They still weren't there. The scout from State University found me in the athlete tent 20 minutes later. She was tall, with silver hair and kind eyes, wearing a university polo and carrying a clipboard. "Halena Chen?" I stood up. "Yes, ma'am." "I'm Coach Patricia Wells from State University. I've been watching you today. Those were exceptional performances." "Thank you." "We have a very competitive track program at State and we're always looking for talented athletes. Are your parents here? I'd like to speak with them about our scholarship program." My throat felt tight. "They had something else today. They couldn't make it." Coach Wells looked at me for a long moment. Something in her expression shifted. Recognition, maybe? Or understanding, like she'd seen this before. "I see." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a business card. "Well, here's my information. Have them call me when they get a chance. We're very interested in having you on our team, Halena. Very interested." I took the card with both hands, like it was something precious. "Thank you, I will." She smiled, but it was sad. "You ran beautifully today. You should be very proud." After she left, I sat there holding that card, reading her name over and over. Coach Patricia Wells, State University Track and Field. A scholarship, a future, and no one to tell. I took the bus home. The number 47, same as always, winding through neighbourhoods where other families were probably sitting down to dinner, where parents were probably asking their kids about their day, about their races, about their victories. The bus was mostly empty. Just me, an old man reading a newspaper, and a tired-looking woman with grocery bags. I pressed my forehead against the window and watched the world slide by. When I got home at 6:30, I heard them before I saw them. Laughter, music, the sound of celebration. I opened the door to chaos. Balloons everywhere, purple ones, Violet's favourite colour. A banner stretched across the living room. "Congratulations, Violet!" Mum was on the phone, pacing back and forth, her voice bright with excitement. Dad was in the kitchen, pulling champagne flutes from the cabinet. Violet was on the couch, still in her rehearsal clothes, scrolling through her phone with a huge smile. "Oh, Halena," Mum said, noticing me finally. She covered the phone with her hand. "How was your thing? Your sports day?" My thing, like it was a dentist appointment or a haircut. "I won," I said. "Both races. Broke 2 school records, got scouted by State University." "That's wonderful, honey." She wasn't really listening. She turned back to the phone. "Sorry, Janet, yes." She was absolutely radiant. The director couldn't stop praising her technique. He said she has a real future in the company. Dad emerged from the kitchen with 4 champagne flutes and a bottle. He started pouring, 1 glass, 2 glasses, 3 glasses. He stopped at shy of 3. I stood there in the doorway with my gym bag and my participation ribbon. They'd give me the actual medals tomorrow at the school assembly. And I understood something fundamental about my place in this family. I was optional, an afterthought, something that existed in the peripheral vision while the real family celebrated the real daughter. "Halena," Violet called from the couch. "Come see. The director posted about me on the company's social media." I walked over. She showed me her phone. There was a photo of her mid-leap, everything graceful and perfect. The caption read, "Discovered an extraordinary talent today, the future of dance." "That's amazing, Vi," I said, and I meant it. She was talented. She had worked hard. She deserved this. But so did I. "Sorry they didn't come to your sports thing," she said, lowering her voice. "You know how Mom gets when it's about dance." "Yeah," I said. "I know." My phone buzzed. A text from Coach Rivera. "Absolutely phenomenal today, Halena. You should be celebrating. Those times were incredible." I showed the text to Violet, hoping maybe she'd say something to Mum and Dad. Maybe if she told them how important it was, they'd care. She glanced at it. "That's great. You must be so happy." Then she turned back to her own phone, back to refreshing her social media, back to counting likes and comments. I went upstairs. In my room, I carefully placed the State University card on my desk next to last month's qualifying medal, the one no one had noticed. I sat on my bed, pulled my knees to my chest, and stared at my walls. Posters of famous runners, photos of Olympians crossing finish lines, a calendar marked with training schedules and race dates. This was my world. This small room with its dreams pinned to the walls, and they'd never even come inside to look. I didn't cry. I just sat there, feeling something inside me go very quiet and very still, like a muscle going numb, like a part of me was shutting down to protect the rest. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Violet. "Seriously though, congrats on your records. That's really cool." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Thanks." Nothing else. Just thanks. Because what else was there to say? That I needed them and they weren't there? That every race I ran was me screaming, "Look at me, see me, love me," and they never turned around? You can't make people care. I was learning that. You can break every record, win every race, achieve every dream, and if they're looking the other way, it doesn't matter. The next 3 years followed the same pattern, the same rhythm of absence and disappointment. Sophomore year, regional championships. I won the 800 metre and the 400 metre, set regional records in both. They were at Violet's showcase performance in the city. "We'll catch the next one," Dad said. Junior year, state championships. I qualified for nationals. Broke another school record. They were at Violet's intensive workshop with a choreographer from New York. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," Mum explained. Senior year, national championships. I placed 3rd in the country in the 800 metre. third in the entire country, at 17 years old. They were at Violet's audition for a prestigious company. She needs us there for moral support, they said. I stopped telling them about races. I stopped leaving medals on the counter. I kept everything in my room, in a box under my bed where no one would trip over my achievements, where my success wouldn't inconvenience anyone. I got recruited by multiple universities, State, Pacific, Northern, Tech, all offering full scholarships, all wanting me. I chose State, signed the papers in the guidance counsellor's office with Coach Rivera as my witness. When I told my parents at dinner, Mum looked up from her phone. State? That's the one nearby, right? About 2 hours away. Oh, that's convenient. You can come home on weekends. Dad nodded. Good choice, Halena. Practical. Violet was on her phone too, texting someone. She glanced up. Cool. I'll be in New York by then anyway. That was it. That was the whole conversation about my future. 2 weeks later, Violet got accepted to a dance academy. She was in New York. They threw a party, invited the extended family, catered food, a cake with her name on it, toasts and speeches about her bright future. Aunt Marie cornered me by the punch bowl. Halena, we never see you anymore. What have you been up to? Running, mostly. Just signed with State on a full scholarship. Her eyes went wide. A scholarship? For running? I didn't even know you ran. Since I was 14. Does your mother know? I looked across the room where Mum was showing everyone photos of Violet in various costumes, various poses, various moments of glory. I told her, I said. Well, that's wonderful. You must be so... Excuse me, I said, and walked away. I found Violet in the kitchen, alone for once, eating a piece of cake. Hey, I said. Hey, hell of a party, right? Yeah, you deserve it. You worked really hard. She looked at me, really looked, and I saw that pity again. That same expression from 3 years ago. Halena, you know they love you, right? Do I? They don't really understand track. It's not as visual as dance. They can't see what makes it special. I've been running for 3 years. They've never come to a single race. You're being dramatic. The word hit me like a slap. Dramatic. Like my pain was performance. Like my need to be seen was an overreaction. Maybe, I said quietly. Or maybe I'm just finally saying out loud what I've been feeling since I was 15 years old. I left the party early, didn't say goodbye to anyone, just walked out into the cool night air and started running. I ran through the neighbourhood, past houses with lit windows and families inside. I ran until my legs burned and my lungs ached. I ran until I couldn't think anymore. When I finally stopped, I was at the school track. Empty now, dark except for a single security light. I walked to the starting line of the 400-metre. Stood there in my party clothes and nice shoes, completely alone. And I made a promise to myself. I would keep running. I would keep winning. Not for them, for me. I moved into my dorm at State in August. Mum and Dad drove me, helped me unpack my stuff, met my roommate. This is nice, Mum said, looking around the small room. Call if you need anything, Dad said. Violet had already left for New York. She texted me a selfie from the airport. New adventures? Miss you? Already they left after an hour. Mum hugged me. Dad slipped me some cash. They got in the car and drove away. I stood in the parking lot, watching them go, and felt nothing. My roommate, Jessica, came out. You okay? Yeah, I said. I'm good. College was different. Better. I was good at running, really good. And here that mattered. Coach Wells noticed me. My teammates noticed me. Professors who knew about the track team noticed me. I made all conference my freshman year. The local paper did an article about me. I sent it to my parents. Mum texted back, "So proud of you." But when I called to tell them about the regional championships, she spent 20 minutes telling me about Violet's first performance with the company before asking, "So what did you want to talk about?" "Nothing," I said. "Never mind." Sophomore year, I started competing nationally. Made the podium at the National Collegiate Championships, bronze in the 800 metre. I called home, got Dad. "That's fantastic, Halena. Bronze medal." "Yeah, it was a good race." "Your mother will be thrilled. She's actually in New York right now visiting Violet. Her company is doing a special showcase." "Oh, right. But we're very proud of you. Very proud." The words sounded hollow, like something you say because you're supposed to, not because you feel it. Junior year, I won nationals gold medal. Fastest collegiate 800 metre runner in the country. I called home. Mum cried. Dad said it was incredible. They asked me to send photos. I did. They never hung them up. When I came home for Christmas, I saw Violet's dance photos covering the walls, her performances, her costumes, her company headshots, an entire gallery of her success. My single national championship photo was on the refrigerator, held up by a magnet, partially covered by a grocery list. Senior year, I qualified for the Olympic trials. The Olympic trials. I trained for 2 years for this moment. Every morning run, every interval session, every moment of pain and doubt, it all came down to 3 races over 1 weekend in June. I didn't tell them when it was, didn't send them the schedule, didn't invite them. I just went. I ran the heats on Friday, qualified for the semi-finals. I ran the semis on Saturday, qualified for the finals. Sunday morning, I stood at the starting line for the final race, and I thought about 15-year-old me, standing on that school track, looking for them in the stands. I thought about all the races they'd missed, all the records they'd never witnessed, all the moments I'd hoped they would see me. And then I stopped thinking about them entirely. The gun went off. I ran the race of my life. I made the Olympic team. 4th place in the 800 metre. Made it by 6/100ths of a second. 6 tiny hundredths between going to the Olympics and going home. I crossed the line and fell to my knees on the track, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Coach Wells was there, pulling me up, hugging me. "You did it! Halena, you did it!" My teammates mobbed me. Other runners congratulated me. Strangers cheered. I was going to the Olympics. I called them after from the stadium, still in my uniform, still shaking. "Hello? Mom, I made it. I made the Olympic team." Silence, long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "Mom? Halena, that's wonderful." Her voice was distant, distracted. "Hold on. Your father will want to hear Violet. Turn that down. I'm on the phone. What did you say, honey?" "I made the Olympic team. For the 800 metre, I'm going to the Olympics." Oh my goodness, that's just... Hold on." She was talking to Dad now, her hand partially covering the phone. "Halena made some kind of team for running. Isn't that exciting?" Some kind of team. The Olympics was some kind of team. "That's tremendous, sweetheart," she said, coming back to the phone. "We'll have to celebrate when you're home next. Listen, can I call you back in a bit? Violet's agent is supposed to call any minute about her contract renewal." "Sure," I said. She didn't call back. Not that day, not the next day, not all week. I went to the Olympics alone. Well, not alone. I had my team, my coaches, my fellow athletes, but I went without my family. The opening ceremonies were magical. Walking into that stadium with thousands of other athletes, representing my country, living a dream I'd had since I was a little girl. I looked for them in the stands. Even though I hadn't told them where I'd be sitting, even though they were thousands of miles away, I still looked. Old habits. I competed. I ran the heats, the semis, the finals. I didn't medal. Finished sixth. At the Olympics, sixth place means you're the sixth fastest woman in the world that year. It means you stood on the biggest stage in sports and held your own. But it's not a medal. It's not a story people remember. I called home after. We tried to watch, Mum said, but the time difference, and we couldn't figure out which channel. It's okay, I said. We're still so proud of you. Thanks. When are you coming home? Violet's back from tour next month. We could all have dinner. I'll let you know, I said. I didn't go home for 3 months. I was 24 when it happened, just a regular Tuesday. I was back at State, working as a graduate assistant coach while training for the next Olympic cycle. I was on the track, running repeats, pushing myself the way I always had. A college kid, probably late for class, texting while driving through the campus loop. He came around the curve too fast, didn't see the track, didn't see me. I heard the tyres screaming, turned, saw the car coming straight at me. I tried to move. Wasn't fast enough. The impact felt like being hit by the entire world at once. I flew backward. Strange how you notice things in slow motion, how I could see the sky spinning above me. Very blue, with 3 small clouds shaped like rabbits. I hit the ground and felt something in my spine snap. An actual sound, like a branch breaking. I couldn't feel my legs. People were screaming. Someone was calling 911. Coach Wells was suddenly there, kneeling beside me, telling me not to move, that help was coming, that I'd be okay. I stared up at the sky and thought, this is such a stupid way to die. But I didn't die. Not right away. The ambulance came. Paramedics, hospital, surgery. Another surgery, 3 days in ICU where I drifted in and out of consciousness. When I finally woke up clearly, they were there. Mum and Dad sitting beside my hospital bed, holding my hands, crying. We're so sorry, Mum kept saying. We should have been there. We should have come to your races. We should have... Too late, I thought. But I was too tired to say it. Too tired for anger, too tired for anything, except the morphine drip and the beeping machines and the terrible knowledge settling into my bones. Violet came too. She looked scared, younger than I'd seen her in years. You're going to be okay, Halena. The doctors said you might walk again. They said with therapy, might. That word hung in the air like smoke. I stared at the ceiling and felt something inside me finally break that hadn't broken on impact. Hope, maybe. Or the future I'd been building. The next Olympics, the life I'd imagined. All of it, gone in the time it took a college kid to send a text message. 3 weeks later, after more surgeries, after consultations with specialists, they gave me the final diagnosis. Complete spinal cord injury. T12 vertebra. Paralysed from the waist down, I would never run again. They said it kindly, gently, with compassion and professional distance. They talked about wheelchairs and physical therapy and adapting to a new normal. I nodded and smiled and thanked them for their honesty. Inside, I was screaming. I was 24 years old. I had been running since I was 14. Running was breathing, was living, was the only thing I'd ever been good at, the only thing that was completely mine. And now, it was gone. Mum and Dad visited less after that initial crisis. The guilt was too heavy, I think. Easier to stay away than to sit with what they'd missed, who they'd ignored. Mum called once a week. Uncomfortable conversations where she asked how I was feeling and I lied and said fine. Dad sent money for medical bills, for the wheelchair, for the renovations I'd need. Violet texted sometimes, updates about her career, photos from her performances, cheerful messages trying to keep things normal. I responded when I had the energy. Most days I didn't. Physical therapy was hell. Learning to use a wheelchair, learning to transfer from bed to chair, learning to do everything I'd taken for granted. The therapists were kind, patient. They told me I was making good progress. Progress toward what? A life I didn't want, a future I couldn't imagine. 6 months after the accident, I moved back home. I had nowhere else to go. My apartment wasn't wheelchair accessible. I had no income. The insurance settlement was tangled up in lawyers and liability disputes. Mum set me up in the downstairs guest room. Bought me things she thought would help. A special mattress, a shower chair, books about people who'd overcome adversity. I thanked her and put them aside and stared at the walls. Violet visited once a month. She'd sit with me and talk about her shows, her company, her life that was still moving forward. I listened and nodded and felt myself disappearing a little more each time. Depression, the therapist said. Perfectly normal given the circumstances. She prescribed medication, suggested support groups, told me it would get better. It didn't get better. Every day was the same. Wake up, transfer to wheelchair, physical therapy, meals, television, sleep, repeat. I was a ghost in my own life, present but not really there, breathing but not really living. I was 25 when I took all the pills, not dramatically, not as a cry for help, just quietly, methodically, while Mom and Dad were out at Violet's show in the city. I lined them up on my bedside table. Pain medication, antidepressants, sleeping pills. Everything the doctors had prescribed to make this half-life bearable. I took them one by one until the bottles were empty. Then I lay down in bed and waited. The last thing I thought was, maybe in another life I'll run again. Maybe in another life they'll come watch. Then nothing. Then everything. I opened my eyes and I was 15 years old again. I was standing in our kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, the smell of coffee and toast in the air. I looked down at my hands, young hands, smooth hands, hands that had never gripped wheelchair wheels. I took a step. My legs worked. I took another step. My spine was whole. I started crying right there in the kitchen, just from the simple, impossible miracle of being able to stand. Halena, you okay? Mum was at the counter packing Violet's dance bag, not looking at me. I knew this moment. I'd lived this moment before. This was the morning before district championships. The morning before they chose Violet's rehearsal over my races. The morning that started everything. I wiped my eyes. What day is it? Friday. Why? Still not looking. Friday. The day before everything fell apart the first time. The day I could start over. I had died. I had actually died. Swallowed pills in a wheelchair in a guest room and let go of a life I couldn't bear anymore. And somehow, impossibly, I was back. Back in a body that worked. Back in a moment where I could make different choices. Back with 10 years of memory in a 15-year-old body and a second chance I didn't understand, but wasn't going to waste. Halena, be reasonable, Mum was saying, the same words as before. Violet's been working toward this for years. The director only comes twice a year. We can't risk being late. I looked at her, really looked, at the way she moved around Violet like she was the sun and everything else was just orbit, at how she hadn't actually looked at me once, at how she probably couldn't even remember what colour my race uniform was, what events I was running, what time I needed to be there. The old me would have argued, would have begged, would have tried one more time to make them see me. But I'd already lived that story. I knew how it ended. This time would be different. You're right, I said quietly. Mum stopped, turned, actually looked at me for the first time. What? You should go to Violet's rehearsal. It's important. Oh. She blinked, surprised. Well, yes. I'm glad you understand, sweetheart. I do, I said. I understand perfectly. And I did. Finally, completely, I understood. I understood that nothing I did would make them choose me. No records, no medals, no achievements. They would always choose Violet because that's who they were. That's what they valued. But this time, I wasn't going to keep trying. This time, I was going to choose myself. Violet appeared in her leotard. Dad came down with car keys. "Ready, Vi?" he said. "Ready." They left, all three of them, just like before. I stood in the kitchen and I didn't feel hollow. I felt free. I went upstairs, got my gym bag, and went to the district championships, alone. I won the 100-meter, broke the school record, 14.23 seconds, same as before. The stands were full of other people's families. I didn't look for mine. I didn't need to. I won the 400-meter, 56.8 seconds, another record. The scout from state found me. "Are your parents here?" "No," I said simply, not making excuses, not apologizing. "That's their loss," she said, and I heard something in her voice. Recognition, understanding. "You're exceptional, Halena. Here's my card. I hope you'll consider state." "I will," I said, and I meant it. I took the bus home. When I walked in at 6:30, the celebration was happening. Balloons, champagne, praise for Violet. "How was your thing?" Mum asked, phone pressed to her ear. "Fine," I said. I went upstairs. I put the Scouts card in my drawer next to the medals I'd keep there, in a box, where they wouldn't bother anyone. Then, I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling. I had a second chance. I had working legs and a whole spine and a future that wasn't measured in transfers from bed to wheelchair. I had everything I'd lost. But this time, I wasn't going to spend it chasing people who would never turn around. This time, I was running for myself. Only myself, and that, I finally understood, was enough.